Hey y'all, welcome to my channel today. I am going to bring you guys how to do hats. I know that I've done this in the past, but I just kind of wanted to refresh some things, maybe talk about some of the things that I haven't talked about in my other videos, but I just want to bring you guys 5 tips today to embroidering a structured Richardson 112 hat. So I had an order come in from a friend of mine. I've already completed half of the order for these Richardson 112 hats for the fire station. So I've got 6 of them done. 6? Yes, 6 of them done, halfway through. And then he wanted some digital camel ones with the same logo. So I went ahead and ordered those. I went ahead and started on them. But really quick, I wanted to bring you guys some tips that I have found very helpful, especially with doing the Richardson 112s, the structured hats. I know there's a lot of requests for these hats, and a lot of especially newer embroidery users will shy away from them because they are very tricky and difficult to embroider, especially in the beginning. So let me just talk to you guys a little bit about my first tip, my first S, because they're all S's. I did have to get a little creative to make them all S's, but my first S is structured hats. What are they? Okay, most of you probably already know what a structured hat is, and it's kind of obvious, but so this would be your example of an unstructured hat. Floppy, just fabric, basically. That's your unstructured hat. These hats are, and this one has the cute little metal buckle. What is this? Is this? I've done ones like these that I think were like an Adams brand. This one, I'm not sure. I got it off Jiffy. I might have gotten it off S&S. I think I got it off Jiffy. It's 100% cotton. It doesn't have a brand. This one does not have a brand name on it. But I think it's a nice higher quality hat with the buckle. A lot of ladies like these hats. These are great hats if you are just starting out on embroidery. You could even attempt these on your single needle. I sure did in the beginning. I was doing hats on my single needle machine, just like flatten them out on there. Definitely can't do that with a Richardson 112. So that's your unstructured hat. Here would be another example of a structured hat, but I just want to point out that not all structured hats are built equally. So this is a structured hat, but actually, like I said, I was doing hats on my single needle. These are the hats I used to do on my single needle. It does kind of ruin the, what am I trying to say? Not the durability. They just don't look as shaped after you've embroidered on your single needle with them. They do kind of look flattened out. I don't know how to explain it. You kind of try to mold it back, but anyways, so this is a structured hat, but it's a much softer structured hat. These would be a great hat, like once you've mastered your unstructured hats, to like graduate to this style hat. These I got off Amazon, Velcro back. Not probably the best quality. Sorry, if you hear some crazy noises that sound like aliens in the background, it's because my kids have discovered how to call each other on their tablets, but they don't understand the fact that they have to be in different rooms. So you get that like wobbling noise. Anyways, hopefully y'all can't hear that. What was I saying? Summertime, so distracting. Oh, okay, so these are from Amazon. You can buy them in bulk. You can get them super cheap, and they are getting you into that structured world. So these would be a great place to start, to practice on. They're a lot cheaper. I think once you buy them in bulk, they're like $3 a hat, maybe $5, compared to these ones. I think for the digital camo, I think I spent like 12 something, almost $13 a hat. This is getting it off of Jiffy. Now, if I knew ahead of time, listen, he ordered 6 first, and then after I already had started on them, then he told me he wanted the other 6, so I ordered 6 and 6 split. But if I had known, I could have ordered all 12 and probably added in a few extra and gotten them through S&S a lot cheaper. It's all right. I'm still making money. I ain't losing it yet. Anyway, so from Jiffy, these are around $13. Let's just round up. They were $13. each. And then this one was around $10 each. So they're both Richardson 112s. But just the different style, I guess, made this one a little bit more expensive. So, and I'm only personally, and I hesitate to share with y'all pricing, but I know that y'all are going to ask. So I charge for this design. It's not a 3D puff. It's a pretty quick stitch out for me. I'm charging him around $10 a stitch out. So I'm making profit around $10 a hat. That might not seem like enough for y'all. You do what you think is best and what you can get in your area. For me, this is what I find to be a fair price. So these hats are going to be $20 each, and these ones are going to be around $22, $23 each. So that's just what I do. So that's structured hats. So this one is a much more structured hat. So that's what they are. You might have already known all that, but just to go over it a little bit. So structured hats, what are they? That's what they are. Okay. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is sizing for your design. Sizing for your design. So you want to make sure when you are doing hats that you get them digitized professionally from someone who knows what they're doing with hats. Not all digitizers even know what they're doing, especially the ones, that's just my iron, either heating up or cooling down. I'm not really sure. Okay. Not all digitizers even know what they're doing, especially the ones in those Facebook groups who are going to spam the crap out of your inbox, and they've even gotten my phone number and they call me 20,000 times a day. That's a huge exaggeration, but they do call me weekly probably. I just ignore any calls that I don't recognize. But anyways, so not all digitizers are going to be the same. So I wish you well. But I can't even honestly give you advice on who to use. In the past, I have used, I think it was Easy Digitizing. It's in a couple other videos that I've done. They were very decent, and that would be one to look into. And if you go back through my videos, you might even find that code and get, I think, 50% off. So that would be someone you could consider looking into. And there's others. So anyway, so sizing, so digitizing is very important because hats are just done differently. You can't just put in any logo that you get off of Etsy and expect to embroider it on a hat. It's not going to work for you. Hats are not a flat structure. They're curved, they're rounded. So what basically a digitizer who knows what they're doing is going to do is they're going to start center out and up. So I believe this one starts with the red fire truck, and I believe it starts, I would have to go back and rewatch how it's stitched out, but I believe it starts somewhere in the middle, and it starts stitching one way or the other, I can't remember, and then it starts going in with the detail, and then it does the red line, and then it comes down and does this black jerseys, and then it comes over here and does this. So it does kind of... Y'all, I'm not a digitizer. I just know that there's a specific way that you want things done and you want them done right. So just make sure that you use somebody reputable to digitize your hats. But my S is size. So size, you want to make sure when you get it digitized from your digitizer, you tell them and you specify 2 1/4 inches tall. It can go a little bit wider, that's fine, because the machine, the hoop, is going to allow you to embroider almost all the way around the hat, but it cannot go any higher than 2 1/4 inches. If you try to push that limit, you are going to run into problems. You are going to break needles down on the bottom. You're going to run into errors telling you it's beyond the perimeter, and even if you tweak your machine to make it go beyond those perimeters, you're going to get distortion in your design where it's not going to stitch out properly. So sizing for your design, very important, especially with the structured hats. So that leads me to the next S, stabilization. Do we need it or do we not need it? I've seen comments go both ways. I've seen some people say on structured hats, absolutely not, waste of time, you don't need stabilization. Okay, you do what you want. I like to stabilize. I find that, you know what, it's good measure. Let's just make sure that we're setting ourselves up for success. So what I would do, see if I have a pair of scissors. Okay, so what I like to do, and I don't have a hoop handy, it's not already stabilized. Let's see. Just gonna kind of guess on my length here. I use a tearaway stabilizer, and I did recently see someone very adamantly saying that they don't use tearaway, they use some other special stabilizer for hats. Listen, okay, if you want to spend more money on a special stabilizer, I don't even know where, I don't know. I've been using tearaway for years, and I do a lot of hats, and I don't have a problem with it. So what I do is I cut a wide, long strip, and then I fold it in thirds. Now, this roll is the one that came with my machine. I'm not sure how long it is. I don't have a tape measure handy. I think it's 12 inches, and I think my other one is 15 inches. The one I normally use is 15 inches, I think. So anyway, so these strips are a little bit more, they're going to be narrower than what I'm used to using. But I fold it in thirds so I get that little crease line, and then I just cut them down into strips. Now I believe you can order a roll of stabilizer that is in this short strip form for hats. Check out Richardson. I believe they have one. I just, you know, if you're going to follow my channel, you're going to realize real quick that I do whatever is easiest. You know, whatever I have on hand, I'm going to make it work for me. So I have tearaway stabilizer already on hand. Some of these look real skinny. Anyway, so that's how I get those ready. I'm going to use what I have on hand. So if I've got some tearaway stabilizer on hand, it's not a big deal to cut it down to size. So I like to use stabilizer. And here's one of the reasons why. When you are doing your trace on these structured hats, you've got all of these seams in here, and even like they're nice, they're smooth, but once I steam, that's going to be my next S. I steam my hats, and once you steam your hats, and the goal is to get your hat as close to the needle plate as possible. So if it's close to the needle plate, it can probably snag on some of this, especially when you're getting up to the top. Sometimes it, you know, I don't know how I'm trying to explain this. I like the stabilizer because it's going to give it a smooth surface on the inside of the hat. So when it's doing its trace, hopefully it's just going to help. So that's me. I like to use stabilizer. You don't have to, apparently, but I've always been using stabilizer, and I've never had a problem with any of it. I like the tearaway. I like to just rip it out after. So that's my tip number 3. Well, really tip number 2, because number 1 was just explaining what a structured hat is. But I would say I would stabilize it. And what I like to do is I like to use the long strips. I've already got this on my station. I think you can use a smaller piece that's just as big as your design or whatever if you would like to. But I like to use the longer piece because I like to clip it onto the stabilizer bars, so that way I'm not trying to fiddle with it while I'm putting my hat on. So I use a long piece of stabilizer, and I clip it into place. And now I'm gonna show you what I do next. So the next thing, and it looks like my iron has cooled down, so hopefully I can get it warm up real fast. The next thing that I do is steam. I steam my hats. And I do have a hat press, and I did talk about in another video that I have used the hat press and pressed the hat, and that did work well. So if you have a hat press and you want to go that route, that did work very well. Just make sure you take it nice straight from the hat press and get it right on here so that it's still kind of moldable and you can get it like nice and snug the way you want it. Honestly, I do like it, and I do have it, and I could use it, but I'm just old dog. I just like my old ways. I'm happy with my iron. It's quick, it's easy. It's just what I like to do. Okay, so, and all of this might be too much and it might be too extra, and maybe I'm going extra and over the top, but structured hats were a huge struggle. So if you're watching this video, I'm imagining that you've had some trouble. So I'm just showing you what helped me. And that doesn't mean that these are the only ways to do it. This is just what I had found helpful. So what I like to do is I like to pump some steam on the inside of my cap so that when I pull my hat brim down, I can get it nice and flat, because you don't want any of this to be bulked up. So again, not necessary. This is what I like to do. So I just put it in there and throw some steam in there, and then I pull these out and I make sure they're nice and flat. I unsnap the back of my hat, and then we get it on to the frame. Okay, so I haven't clipped it in yet, and my stabilizer is, as you can see, moving around a bit, but for the most part, it's where it needs to be. So here's the thing. Actually, let me pull the stabilizer up for just a sec. All right, here are these little claw pieces on your hat frame, on your hat hoop. You want to get those so that they're grabbing right here on the brim of your hat, okay? And when you pull over your bar, you want to make sure that it's positioned right at the bottom of your hat, but you want to make sure like your needle can't go down here. It's gonna break. It's gonna hit that. So let me try to explain. Let me just try to explain. Let me show you. I'm a hands-on girly. I need to see it. I can't just read about it. I can't just hear about it. Let me show it to me. Okay. So, and the other thing is when you tighten it, it's going to pull the hat this way. So even like this is your center line, you're going to line it up with the center of your hat, but I always kind of get it off just ever so slightly. I tuck the sweatband or the band underneath that area, okay? And then you want to make sure that your band looks straight on the hat, because that's going to ensure that you have a straight design. Okay, and here's the thing. I used to push it down as far as I could and then hoop it like this as far as I could. But here's the thing. Let me just try to pull it off and show you. Okay. If you push down and you're feeling for like this part of the frame, there's that part of the frame. So even though I have it hooped, I have this bar all the way at the bottom of the brim because I have not hooped this correctly, because I have my hat shoved down too far. And then I do my trace and my perimeter, and the needle comes down. Oops, sorry, it's shaking. Comes down as low as it can. It's gonna break a needle because it's gonna hit. I have the hat down too far. Oops, come on. And it's gonna hit this part of the hoop. So when you're hooping your hat, you want to make sure that it's straight and all, but you want to make sure that this bar, as you pull it up, and I like to try to get those claws right in that seam. You want to make sure you're not pushing it down too far. I hope that makes sense. I also will push on this part of the hat to kind of feel for that inside part of the hoop and make sure that I haven't pushed the hat down too far. Now look again. The stabilizer is not straight, and then you want to make sure the brim is pulled out, or not the brim, the band is pulled out enough all the way around so it looks straight. You can flatten it all out if you like. I've gotten to the place where I've done this so many times. You know what? It's not looking straight because it's not clicked in all the way. There we go. I've done this so many times that I'm not worried so much about what's going on in the back of the hat. I'm just focused on the front of the hat. And I've done it for so long, it's just working out for me. Okay, so you see how it's like slightly off centered, but by the time you pull it tight, it's pretty much right there. Okay, So, and then I'm going to feel up here, make sure that this bar is where it's supposed to be. Now I've seen also they have that new, someone developed some like cord like bar that they put on. I really don't see how that's going to make much of a difference, because it's not, in my experience, it's not this bar that's the problem. It's the inside part of the hoop. If the hat is pushed down too far, too low. Okay. All right. So that feels good to me. That looks good to me. Now this is also where I come in with some more steam. Again, not necessary, but with these structured hats, especially when you're starting out, your goal is to get all of this as nice and snug and as low. Sorry, I'm pushing on the hat and it's shaking the whole camera. Your goal is to get this as nice and snug. Now, I will say, with the new version of the mirror machines, I have noticed a big difference that some of the extra mile steps that I have taken in the past are not seeming to be as important. So I probably could pop this on and do it, but I just, as good measure, y'all, steam it away. This is just what I like to do. Okay, so it's just starting to cool down. It just started beeping at me. And I just get in there with that steam. It's all right. Okay, and then while it's all steamy and warm, I kind of push down. And this is another great opportunity for me to feel this bar, feel this hoop, and make sure I'm making sure that it's not hooped too low. So there we go. This is ready to go onto the machine, and we will talk about our last S, my last tip, when I get over to the machine. So again, the other thing too, some people, and I've done it in the past where I've taken the clips and you can clip this super, super tight onto here. Honestly, I've come to the point where I don't clip the back of my hats anymore. You can, in my experience, and you know what, you try it both ways and you figure out what you like better. In my experience, when I've clipped the back of the hat and I've pulled this tight, when it's doing its trace and it's getting up here, it's pulling on the hat. When I leave it unclipped, I'll leave my stabilizer clipped in here nice and tight. It just gives the machine room to move around in here, and I just find that it's not distorting the hat. I don't know how else to explain it. Let's get this over to the machine, and hopefully when I do a trace and talk about our last S, it'll make sense. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm gonna put the hat, and if you are super, super new, you'll see that I'm not putting my hat with the brim up. It's not gonna work. You gotta turn it, get it past your needles, and then turn it up, and then line it up and click it into place. And there are 3 clips, so you wanna make sure they're all clipped in. Okay. I have my design on here already. I'm going to go ahead and do a trace to get it back to needle 1, and then we'll position it for that center area, and I will show you the difference between the hat clipped in the back and the hat not clipped in the back, and you can kind of make your decision for what you think is best. Okay. So again, I'm just feeling, I had 2 hats hooped, so I'm like, okay, which one did I put on here? All right. It's cool. The hat itself is, okay. This is actually, I pulled the needle down all the way, which I don't like to do, but this is extra. This is not one of my S's, but let me just show you, this is something with the new machine that I've run into, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who is like, what on earth? So you just saw it do a trace, right? Actually, let me just trim it. All right, let me do what I was trying to do. I hold it down halfway, not all the way. Okay, we're gonna do a trace. This is extra, okay? This is a bonus. Okay, look, it fits. And let me pull you over and show you real quick on my screen what it looks like. Okay, do you see the screen? It's green. Our frame is green. It's got some space on the bottom. It fits, correct? Fits. Okay, great. All right, so it fits. Let me do the trace again. Like, I literally, because this took me, when I first got my machine, I went back and forth with a couple people from Buy, and I was like, why is it doing this? Okay, this is what's going to happen. Watch this. Pull the needle down all the way. You've seen it fits. It fit, it fit. Okay, I pulled the needle down all the way. All right, watch what happens. It stopped in the corner up here, and I'm getting a message on my screen that is saying design is too large. But we know, you and I know, we did the trace, what, 3 or 4 times. The design is not too large, and it does fit. This is a safety precaution that Buy has added in. And I mean, I'm thankful that they are adding in precautions and such. Like, it's good. But it's just one of those things you have to know, because like with the old version of the machine, the needles, they popped right back up like that one does. It didn't stay down. This needle will stay down, and it wants to protect this bar. It wants to protect this needle. So what it's doing is it's sensing that this is hitting some fabric, and it's saying, oh, stop, it's too big, it's not fitting. So it's just a safety precaution. I just do a trim to pull it back up. Now it's telling me the center of the design is way up here, so we got to recenter it. It's just what it does. So you got to get it back where you like it. I'm looking at my screen. I'm getting it as low as my screen is saying it'll let me do. Okay, and then I'm lining my needle up with the middle of the hat. Now see, there is quite a bit of bounce to this, but it should be okay. The other thing you could do is try to steam it and make it flatter. But anyways, so pull this down halfway, not all the way. You don't want it to stay down. You want to pull it down just enough so you can kind of see what's going on here. I'm going to do my trace. I'm going to see. Okay, that looks good. Now, the other thing with the Richardson hat is the closer you get to this brim, the more of a gap there is here, the more of a chance you run the risk of breaking a needle. It's just the way of it, okay? So yes. So let me tighten these. Let me take my clips. I'm going to tighten this down. All right. So I'm holding my stabilizer. And this is why I kind of like the older versions hoop station, was because you could turn your station, like your hoop on the station, and I could get it all the way around and clip these in nice and tight. Okay, so those are clipped. Both of those are clipped, okay? Nice and tight. Now we'll put it back on here. I tried to do it on the machine, but it messed things up, so I was like, oh, let's pull it off. Okay, now see how it's pulling that fabric? You can do it like that. I've probably done hats like that, and it's okay. You could go with the outline trace, and let's just see how it looks. With the outline trace, it might be different. Of course, it goes slower too, which when you're doing like individual little stitches, your hat's not moving that fast. Anyways, it's kind of moving. Honestly, the whole hat is moving slower than this. Your needle obviously is the thing that's moving fast. Okay, it looks, I mean, see, there's a little bit of distortion there, and that is the highest point of the hat. So I could probably leave it clipped, and it would be okay. And I know, like, the idea of clipping it is to get this as low as possible. And I suggest you try it both ways, really. Okay, I'm just going to stick this back on my stabilizer. I personally, I just don't. I just leave it. I leave my hat loose in the back. I make sure the front is steamed. I make sure the front is hooped properly. And then I just don't feel like it pulls the hat and distorts the hat as much. That's me. That's what I see when I do this. This is how I've been embroidering the hats, and it seems to work well. Okay, that was all extra. The last thing I really want to talk to y'all about, and if you watch some of my other videos with hats, you will know my last S is sharp titanium needles. So you want to use 80-12. Most of my needles are the 75-11 regular needles that came with the machine. I've bought more of them, but they're the same 75-11 needles, okay? All the way up to needle 9. Now, personally, I don't do very many designs that exceed 9 colors. I don't probably do many that exceeds 3 to 6 colors. I do a lot of names. A name is going to be 1 color, you know. I do some logos. This logo is 2 colors. No, it's 3. Sorry, this logo is 3 colors. And that's pretty normal. 3 colors, that's pretty normal. So what I do with my machines is I like to leave the first so many needles as just the 75-11 because most of my embroidery is going to be regular hats, bags, sweatshirts, t-shirts. I mean, sorry, not hats. Bags, sweatshirt, t-shirts, blankets, that kind of thing. Hats is something that I do, well, recently I've done a lot more of them than I used to do, but I don't do them as often, and it really wouldn't matter if I did them as often or not. What I like to do, I leave the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have on this machine from 15 to 10 are set up with sharp titanium needles, and I always leave my sharp titanium needles in there. Those are for hats. You want to use those sharp needles for your structured hats. Now, if I'm doing an unstructured hat, I can use any of my 75-11 needles and they work perfectly fine. When you're doing structured hats, when you're doing a 3D puff hat, you want to use sharp needles. You want to use, and they're thicker, so they're less likely to break, especially over that seam, especially through this structure. So sharp titanium needles. That's honestly, out of all of the tips that I've given you today, that is the #1 tip. I know I saved it for last just because in the sequence of things, that's where it comes. But that is the strongest advice that I can give you, that if you are going to do a structured, especially a Richardson hat, get yourself some sharp titanium 80-12 needles and you should be good to go. Now, that's not saying that I've never broken a sharp titanium 80-12 needle. I have, but I have broken far fewer of these needles than trying to do this hat with your normal 75-11. Can you do a structured hat with a 75-11? Yes, absolutely. Yes, you can. Lots of people do. But in my opinion, when I first started, switching these needles out was the biggest thing that helped me. So I've already done 1 hat. I already have, I've done 7 hats. So I already have the design set. So I'm going to just watch this trace one more time because I did a lot of talking and I want to make sure that it's where I need it to be. Okay, it looks good. I'm going to go ahead and get this started today. Okay, so just pulled it off of the machine. It looks great. Again, before I unhoop it, let me just show y'all, like, this is, in my opinion, the lowest that you're going to get it to embroider. I know that we all look at those hats that were probably produced in a factory before they were assembled, like, or it's a patch style and it looks like it can get lower. Honestly, I just don't even know how you would get this hat any lower without risking breaking needles down here. So it looks really good. It looks centered, but look at the inside. Sorry, I always have a hard time showing y'all the inside. So all right, let me get the back of my camera so I can see. Do you see how close it is to that bar right there? Like, yeah, it looks like it could go a little bit lower, but there's also a gap. Like, Well, like you can see on the side of the hat, look at how indented it is as it is. So as it embroidered, it naturally just kind of like flattened this out, but it's not going to be able to do it much more right there. And you would run the risk of like breaking all kinds of needles and such. So in my opinion, this is the best you're going to get. But because we don't try to go higher than that 2 1/4 inch, I feel like it's very proportioned. It just looks well. If you do that 2 1/4 inch and you get it centered, it looks great. So anyway, so the last thing that I do after I pull my hat off, I pull out the stabilizer, and then this is all nice and flat because we've steamed it and we've tightened it and we've done all the things, and it looks a little bit distorted, but like as you see these ones, I mean, there's a little bit of indentation, but for the most part they don't look as distorted as this one. So what do? Well, we just pump a little bit more steam in there, y'all. I just pump. Ow, some tripped on my leg, that hurt. And then I push it all back. So I push my brim back up in there. I'm gonna snap my snaps back. I can't remember if they were all the way snapped or just partially snapped. I don't think they were all the way snapped. Anyways, and then I just kind of push that design back out a bit. Rub it. I mean, I like it. I think it looks sharp. So, and then I pop back in these little whatever doohickey things, these cardboard structured things, which, you know what though, sometimes, and when you're doing this many, you know, I'm going to take a picture of my product after. I'm going to line them all up and I'm going to take my little picture of all 12 hats. So I'm probably going to leave that cardboard in there, and you really probably won't notice it with 12 hats. But if you're taking a picture of a single hat, I often forget that cardboard's in there, but sometimes it shows up in the picture, and I'm not a huge fan of it. People probably don't notice. We're always our hardest critics. Anyways, just a little helpful tip when you're photographing your hats, maybe take that part out or leave it in, because then it gives it a really good structure too. So I guess it just depends on what you think looks best. But anyways, thank you guys so much for following me along. I know that I've done videos on hats before, but I just wanted to go into more detail and more depth about the different steps of how I do a structured hat, how I embroider it. Today it was just a flat embroidery. I didn't get into the 3D, and I know that I've done 3D in other videos, and maybe that was a distraction to you. Maybe you were like, well, I'm not ready to jump into 3D. I just want to see her do a flat embroidery, not flat embroidery, but you know what I mean, traditional embroidery. Here you go. So I hope that y'all found this helpful today. Yeah, I know hats they can be a struggle, and I was there too, and I struggled once too. But now doing all of these hats, it's almost to the point where I do have a hard time explaining my process, because it's just one of those things. It's like riding a bike. It's like you can explain it to somebody, but until they learn how to do it themselves, it's just really hard to grasp. So I hope that this helps you, encourages you, give it a try, but definitely they are possible. And this new embroidery machine, I was going to say the Vision, not the Vision, the Mirror machine is fantastic. And I did another video on comparing the older version, the 1201, to the new Mirror machine, and I talked about some of the differences and some of the upgrades that they've done, and they really truly have put a lot of focus into hat embroidery especially. So their machine, like straight out of the crate, is pretty much ready to do your hats. So I feel like if I had started on this machine versus my other machine, I would have caught on to hats a lot quicker. So if you've watched some of the older videos, or you've read some of older comments from years past when people before this new machine and you like got scared, don't be scared. Give it a try. You can do it. Do all the things that I just showed you. And this was on your Richardson's 112. But keep in mind that if you're learning, get yourself some of these hats, get a cute little design, and just throw them up on for sale. I know when I was talking about it with the hats that I had already embroidered, this one's blank, you might have seen the tags flapping around. So I had a whole bunch of these pink ones left over from when I was doing single needle embroidery. They just weren't really selling. So I went ahead and put the bow on them, and when I did an event, I just had them listed for $10, and I sold a few, but I just, you know, different price points just to kind of get them moving. So, I mean, do that. I mean, get them. You may not make a huge profit, but just keep in mind that you're learning. So go ahead, get yourself some of these cheaper, like softer structured hats and get practicing with those, and maybe you can sell a few for around $10 or $15, and you'll still be getting ahead, and you'll get some good practice in. There goes my iron cooling down, but that's probably a good cue to wrap this up today. Thank you again so much for watching. I wish you the best in embroidering hats. Please feel free to comment and ask me questions. I do, at this point, at this stage in my life, I am reading all the comments and trying to respond to all of them. This week, I will be away at camp with a bunch of teenagers. My husband and I are youth pastors at our church, so we will be away. So if I don't get back to you right away, just be patient. I will get back to you next week. But yes, please feel free to ask me any questions. If I didn't go over something or you want me to re-explain something, I would love to try to help you out. I'm here to help you along on your embroidery journey. So with that, I will let you all go. Just keep in mind, if you haven't seen my other videos, if you don't have the Buy Embroidery machine and you are interested in getting one, I do have a coupon code in my link in the description below. So you just copy and paste that code, you use that link, you go in and put that in, and you're gonna get $100 off one of these machines. I also have free shipping on Mighty Hoops, which I didn't use today, but Mighty Hoops are amazing. So check those two links out. And I wish you all of the best with your embroidery journey. I will see you guys in the next video.